Hi, I'm Brennan Baker, and if you knew me, you probably know that I'm pretty into basketball. I'm kind of known for that. But what most people don't know is why. I love basketball because it teaches me how to be a better teammate. When somebody talks about basketball like it's stupid or like it doesn't matter, it bugs me because basketball is way more than putting a ball into a hoop. Most people think I'm crazy, but the truth is, basketball is way more than a sport to me. That's why I'm constantly talking about it, because you can't really know me unless you know what matters to me. It's not just a sport, it's personal.
Hey guys, it's Jordan with your weekly refuge video. As always, I hope you're doing well. We're going to start a new series called It's Personal. Now I want to start this with a little awkward story. They're always fun. When I was 10th grade, I decided to play soccer for the first time, so I joined the soccer team. And you have practices with these guys, you spend a lot of time with them, driving to games and stuff like that. I remember a couple months in, I got a starting position on the team, center fullback. I was very excited about the role. Well, there was this guy, he was the star athlete of the team, scored all the goals, ran faster than everybody else kind of thing. Well, we're all hanging out at this tournament, and we're talking to people, and then there's this girl, good-looking gal, and so, I'm trying to talk to her. Well, he comes over and he talks to her, and he starts being a nice guy and introducing everybody to her. So he goes through the list, goes and gets to me, and he looks at me and goes, "I'm sorry, man, what's your name again?" I mean, you talk about just being deflated. It's like, dude, I've been on the team for months with you. I don't even know my name. And, she looks at me. It's like, well, thanks, buddy. I guess we're not as good as friends as I thought we were. You ever been there? You thought you were tight with somebody and you find out they don't even know my name. They know nothing about me. And I think we all live with this expectation, though, that relationships, that friendships should be more than that. They shouldn't be shallow. They shouldn't be fake. They shouldn't make you feel like you could spend time with somebody and end up embarrassed like I was. Regardless of whether you're a social person or not, I think we all agree that when it comes to our relationships, we don't want that. We want somebody we spend time with to be real, to get to know us. We don't want fake friends. In addition, we don't want somebody to act like they care and really not, or to put on a front around us. Whether it's the people you hang out with, the people you're in a group chat with, you play games online with, whatever it may be for you. In a word, we want our relationships to be more than that. We want them to be personal. So here's a cheat code, a shortcut I found in my life, and from my story, I think you'll know where I'm going with this, to know if somebody is personal, if somebody knows you. It's easy. You know if somebody's not personal with you? They don't even know your name. They call you nicknames, generic stuff like, "Hey, chief," "Hey, buddy," "Hey, guy," "Hey, pal," stuff like that. You've probably experienced this, right? Somebody knows you, knows a little bit about you, and acts like they're your friend, but they can't recall your name in the moment. And just like my friend from soccer, my friend. And knowing somebody's name, it matters, right? It makes you feel important. It makes you feel known. It makes it seem like there's a connection between you and the person calling out your name. Nobody wants fake friends, fake relationships. And so I think the difference clearly between fake, or the opposite of fake, is real. And so if I'm buying a knockoff product, sunglasses or something on wish.com, I'm fine with fake because it's cheaper. But in a relationship, I don't want fake. I want real. But I think in a relationship, like I said, the better opposite of fake is personal. We want relationships that we could say are personal. Think about it. Somebody can be really nice with you, really kind, but not necessarily personal. They can know some things about you, which math class you're in, which brand you like, what kind of music you like, just generic stuff they might know about you without knowing you, without being personal. That's kind of what we want to talk about in the series, this different level of being personal. If I asked you to list off everybody you think who knows your name. Go ahead and start making that list real quick. Family, friends, you kind of go through who knows your name. Make that list. As you're doing this, here's a really cool question, and I think an important question. Have you put God on that list yet? Would you get to him as you went? Do you think about God knowing you that way? Knowing you closely, knowing you personally, knowing your name. Now, Jesus said this in Luke 12:7. He says, "Indeed, the very hairs of your head are numbered and known by God." Which sounds weird, but he's God. He knows everything. And so he can know something like that. I think we're usually okay with God, the supercomputer, knowing how many stars are in the sky, how many grains of sand on the seashore, trivial stuff like that. But I also think we often struggle with God knowing us personally, knowing us by name in an intimate way. And caring is really what we're getting to. Maybe you feel like, well, does God really know me? Or is it just kind of like the football coach? Hey, guy. Hey, buddy. That kind of thing. Your teacher. Hi, how are you doing, friend? That kind of stuff. There's a couple of reasons why. You might feel like he doesn't know you personally because, well, you can't see him. You can't hear him. And so if he's talking back to you as you pray, you don't hear it. So remember, are we really personal or just more like a king servant kind of thing? I fall into that trap myself sometimes. Or maybe you feel like God doesn't know much about you or care much about you because you'd have to confess you don't know much about God or care much about God. So you're like, yeah, we're kind of on the same page here. Maybe you've met Christians who are supposed to be the representatives of Christ, and they didn't act like they liked you or cared about you or cared to know you in any way. So you unfairly, but you size God up that way. And then lastly, maybe you think God's not personal because he's just too big. This is the guy who we say we live on a planet circling a star, which is one star of billions of stars in a galaxy, which is one galaxy of billions of galaxies out in the universe. And God made it all. And so who am I that he's mindful of me? Why does God give a rip about Jordan or fill in the blank with your name? Why does God, who created everything, care? Are we to believe that a God who's that big is personal with me and knows me intimately by name? As always, to answer these kind of questions, I want to go to our Bible to get some answer. All the reasons we just gave for doubting this, they're good reasons, and I understand why you're there. I just want to say this. I firmly believe God knows you personally and he cares. Why do I say that? Well, I think he cares about me. I think he knows my name. I think he cares about you, knows your name, wants to know you personally. Here's why. Fakeness is literally the opposite of every interaction Jesus had. And Jesus is the perfect representation of God since Jesus is God. He was God in the flesh. Jesus cared about everybody he encountered. Cared to know their name, cared to know their story. And Jesus shows us what God is like. Jesus wasn't fake in any way. And one of the people Jesus interacts with that helps me believe this is this guy named Zacchaeus. Well, we're going to talk about Zacchaeus for the next couple of weeks, but give you a little head start. Zacchaeus was a tax collector, which may not seem like a huge deal in our culture, but back then, these guys were hated. First of all, they worked for the Roman government. The Roman government had taken over the land. They weren't too nice to the people they took over. And so Zacchaeus was a Jew who told his people, hey, I know the Romans took us all over. I'm going to go work for them, and I'm going to collect money from you for them. So you can imagine. Additionally, tax collectors, they would say, well, since I have to take money from you anyway, how about you give me a little extra so I can line my own pockets, or else I'll get Big Daddy Roman government to come burn your house down. And so these guys, they weren't loved by any stretch. This is like you doing a school fundraiser and the bully comes around and steals all the money so he can go buy energy drinks or something. This is what this was like. Make it worse, Zacchaeus was a chief tax collector, so he was high up in the ranks. Not good. Not good. So that's Zacchaeus. Let's talk about Jesus for a second. Jesus, God in the flesh, God incarnate, comes down. Well, at this point, he had left the life of a humble Jewish carpenter, and he started his public ministry. He started preaching and teaching about who God was, what God was like, and that Jesus was God. He had done miracles, teaching, preaching, and he's traveling around the Judean countryside. And at a time when the average town was less than 100 people, there are thousands and thousands of people uprooting and traveling across the land just to get a glimpse at Jesus, at this miracle worker, this healer, this prophet, this speaker of truth, this guy who claims to be God. And so, as it happened, one day Jesus, on the way to Jerusalem, he's passing through a large town called Jericho. And this guy, Zacchaeus, the tax collector, he wants to see him. He wants to get a glimpse at Jesus. This interaction is recorded by Luke. Luke investigated and interviewed eyewitnesses of the accounts when he wrote his gospel. Well, in Luke 19, 5 through 6, he puts it this way. When Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and called him by name. Zacchaeus, Jesus said, "Quick, come down. I must be a guest in your house today." Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus to his house in great excitement and joy. Let's break this down a bit. I had this great crowd following Jesus into a great town and market center. Everybody's just trying to get a peek, get a look at Jesus, get a glimpse of him. Jesus stops and chats with Zacchaeus, the most hated man in town, probably. This is such a huge deal. This is like being on Instagram. I don't know who you follow or something like that. Your favorite celebrity, and they follow you back and start liking and commenting on your photos. That would be creepy in a way. It's like, whoa, what are you doing? Jesus looks at Zacchaeus and says, "Hey, man." He doesn't just say, "Hey, man," or "Hey, buddy." He says, "Hey, Zacchaeus, let me come over to your house today. Let's hang out." This is what happens. The people around are incredulous. They start grumbling and mumbling. This is how they respond. "He has gone to be the guest of a notorious sinner," they mumbled and grumbled. You might say they were being haters. This was a guy nobody liked. Nobody wanted to be seen hanging out with Zacchaeus, and yet Jesus goes straight toward him. Why do we care? Okay, why does this matter? Well, because this isn't just Zacchaeus' story. This is my story. This is your story. This is how Jesus sees you. It's all over the Gospels. He says this kind of stuff all the time. And then you see examples like this, and we'll talk more about it, where he just looks at somebody and says, "Hey," calls out their name. "I want to know you. I want to get to know you. I want you to know who I am." Jesus paid attention to the guy on the sidelines, the guy who annoyed everybody else, the guy nobody else was noticing, the guy nobody cared to learn his name unless it was to curse it. Jesus cared about that guy. Jesus leaned in to that guy. Jesus made sure and used Zacchaeus' name, and he does the same for you. Jesus knows your name, and he wants to know you. This is how God sees us. Jesus, the representation of God, the God who created everything in the universe, everything in it, that God wants to know you personally. Yeah, the God who's always been. I just think about God, okay, in time, he's always been, he's outside of time. My brain just wants to crash thinking through that. That same God who's bigger than even my comprehension knows you, loves you, and wants to know you better. He knows you by name. He knows you personally, and he wants to make sure you know him that way too. So maybe all this sounds a little crazy to you. Maybe you have a bunch of questions and doubts. That's okay. I think the best thing you can do is try to get a better look at Jesus the way Zacchaeus did. Zacchaeus probably had no intention of having his life completely flipped upside down, totally changed. As we study him through the series, you'll see what I mean. But he got a glimpse of Jesus, and that's kind of what Jesus does. No matter what you think about God, faith, or Christianity, I want you to know this. It's personal because Jesus knows your name. Some people it doesn't always sit well. I get it. You have questions, again, doubts. That's okay. But what would it look like for you, like Zacchaeus, we'll talk, get up in that tree just to get a better look at Jesus, to get a better understanding of what God is like and how God feels about you. Maybe there's some questions you need to start digging into, get some answers. What is God really like? What does God say about me? What does God say about the people around me? Start asking those questions. Start finding good answers to those questions. And as you study Jesus, this is what Jesus did. He changed the way people thought about God. because he was God, but was the perfect representation of God in the flesh in a way we could understand it differently. And there's something that happens when we recognize that the God of the universe, this big personal God we can't see or touch, he's personal and he loves us. It changed the lives of Zacchaeus. It changed my life, and I'm confident it can change your life. Now, it doesn't stop there. We've talked about how powerful it is to be known personally by God in our own lives. He knows your name. He knows you, wants to know you intimately. But if it's true for you, it's also true for the person next to you. It's true for your siblings, true for your parents, true for your cousin, the kid you avoid at school, the teacher you don't like. You get what I'm saying here? Here's what I'm getting at. A relationship with Jesus is always personal. It's personal for you, it's personal for me. So let me ask you this. How can we help make it personal for others? As always, when I give you a truth, what are we going to do with it? I want you to apply it to your own life, but also as we build Jesus' kingdom, how do we help do this in other people's lives? You might have a piano teacher, lacrosse coach, person in science class, the girl who always ends up in your group project, the guy on the team, your friend's little brother, that jerk who forgot your name in front of everybody, like whoever it may be. All these people, they matter. Jesus knows their name. Jesus cares about them. So, here's why it's a big deal. The people around you may not know God cares about them personally until you show that you care about them personally. It's crazy the way it works, but God uses us in this process. So I'm going to give you 3 of the easiest steps I've ever given you for applying a sermon and a message I've given you. Step number 1, know their name. Learn their name. Know their name. Step number 2, make sure you pronounce it correctly. You're better off not knowing their name if you can't say it right. Okay? Step number 3, call them by their name. That's it. Learn their name. Make sure you say it right. And when you see them, call them by their name. Now, I'm the first to admit I'm bad at this. Just reflexively, I'll know your name and I'll still call you buddy or friend or guy. It's a term of endearment. Same time, I hope you've noticed in the past recent years, like I put up the wall here with the Polaroid so I can know your name, your grade, what school you go to, all that kind of stuff. As people come in this year, I'm at the front door checking everybody in, and I hope you've noticed I call every single one of you by your name. I'm trying to make sure I remember your name, know your name, and you know I know your name. Why? Because I want you to know I care. And I want to get closer and personal so I can show you how much I care, so I can show you how much Jesus cares and loves you. That's the whole name of the game, guys. So do that. Learn their name, pronounce it right, and call them by their name. It's so basic, but it's a big deal. Why? Because knowing somebody's name matters because it shows that they matter. They matter to you. And when people don't feel like they matter, it leads to some really bad, dark places in their life. Here's something a way you can start. Think about when you were a little younger, if somebody your age knew your name, how it made you feel. Turn around and do that for somebody younger than you. If you're in high school, do it for somebody in middle school. If you're in middle school, do it for somebody in elementary school. Right? Just turn around and get to know their name. Call them by name. It'll light their world up. It really will. We have a personal God. He also happens to be mind-blowingly powerful, ridiculously creative, and overly full of grace for all of us. And he still knows your name and calls you by it. That's an amazing, powerful truth. And one of the greatest ways we can point to people to this God, this powerful, good God, is by being personal and loving to them, by knowing their names. By the way, this is why we do small groups. I always do a small group plug. We have them here on Wednesday nights because I want everybody here to know that they're known, they're cared about, they have a community within the community they can be close to. No one should come in this door and feel like nobody knows them. Jesus always made it personal to the people around them, and you can too. And we'll start by simply knowing each other's names. All right, guys, as always, hope you're doing well. Can't wait to see you back in the room, and we can hang out. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.